Okay. Hello, guys. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. My name, well, I go by many names. It might be Brennan White. It might be Sultan Ali Redbeard. I am a Shia Muslim from the United States of America. I have been a Muslim for around 5 years, alhamdulillah, since I converted. But I'm well known for my role in the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community, a community of people of many different faiths, Christians, Muslims, Jews. But what unites us is our unique background, our heritage. We descend from, depending on the family we're talking about within the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community, either from Atlantic Creoles that were brought to the coasts of USA and Canada along the Atlantic Ocean, or from multi-generationally mixed-race families whose progeny and first mixed ancestors existed at least 2 centuries ago, hundreds of years ago, or what you would call a triracial isolate type of family heritage. Now, our community is usually of black and white heritage with small amounts of DNA from Roma, Jewish people, North Africans, and Native Americans, depending on the family and region and the subgroup. There are some small minority of people in our community who are just mix of white and native, and they might have little to no black ancestry. They are an extremely small minority. It's just a couple dozen people. Oh wow, is that my best buddy Jaden in the chat? Yo, what's good, bro? Hey, that's awesome. But the term Soulaan, or another term would be foundational Black American, the term came up with as a distinguishing feature. And the reason this term was created was so people could tell the difference between black families from the USA whose ancestors were brought here to be indentured servants or slaves versus black people who moved to the USA in modern times, who they don't really have as much of a connection to the USA. They're newcomers from the Caribbean or from Africa or other parts of the world where black folks have a population that is significant, a big population around. See my buddies in the comments. This is awesome. I'm doing good, bro. How are you doing? Welcome to my live stream. I'm talking about kind of random stuff right now, but yeah. So basically what you get is if somebody moves here from Jamaica, they come here to the USA, most of the time a Jamaican will be black. Not always, but most of the time. So these Jamaican Americans, they'll live in the USA, and they have kids, and those kids grow up to have kids, and they're Americans. After a few generations, these people are calling themselves Black Americans, and they talk like the average Black American in their region, and they have the culture of the Black Americans around them. So they are Black American, but they aren't Soulaan, and they aren't foundational Black Americans, because their ancestors weren't indentured servants or slaves brought from Africa here to the USA. They come from other places, like Jamaica, for example, places in the Caribbean or in Africa or elsewhere in the world. I know a lot from studying and researching, yeah. I don't know everything. Only God knows everything. But I try to do some research and study things. And when I'm interested in certain topics, I can excel at them. It's a double-edged sword with the condition I have. When I'm not really interested in something, it's hard for me to learn it at all. And I can do pretty bad in it unless I have to for my life to save myself. You know, like to get a job or something, then I'll study something even if I'm not interested. But when I'm interested in something, I can really excel in it and become like a human encyclopedia, memorizing things word for word, and not just like a parrot. I know what I mean and what I'm saying and what it means. So that's because of my ADHD and my Asperger's or autism, I've been able to memorize whole entire book worth of information on all these topics. So that's one of the reasons why I became well respected in the Qarsherskiyan community for my ability to do that. The kids who used to bully me and say that I was a bit socially awkward and call me a sped, now they grew up to look up to me, and they're taking lessons from me, and they're learning from me, and they're having trouble keeping up and learning. But yeah, I love you too, best buddy. Thanks for stopping in the comments. That was my best buddy, Jaden, guys. I've known this guy for over 10 years, and I know this because me and him were best friends when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were debating about who's going to be the U.S. president. And that was in 2016. It's 2026. When that was going on back in 2016, I remember me and Jaden was already friends. So I've been friends with that lad for over 10 years. He's a great guy. But anyways, I was telling y'all, so right, these people who come to the USA from Africa or places in the Caribbean like Jamaica, their children will be considered Black Americans, the children of these immigrants. But they're not foundational Black Americans, and they're not Soulaan people, because they didn't descend from the original population of Black people brought to the USA as indentured servants and enslaved people, who have their own culture and stuff. And even if these newer arrivals can assimilate into the Black American culture and community, many of them have become hip-hop stars and stuff, they still have a heritage of their own, which they have the right to embrace and hold on to, like everyone else does in this country. And so, they're quite different. Speak Spanish, you say? I don't know much Spanish, but I'll try. Grandioso soldado contra el guerrillero has demostrado valor el mundo entero con gran heroísmo. Evitaste que nos malara nefasto capitalismo del invasor Che Guevara. What I said doesn't even make sense. I just called Che Guevara a capitalist invader, which doesn't make sense at all. He was a communist. But, yeah, I don't know much Spanish really well. I learned from people in Peru and Chile and Argentina. The Chilean accent in Argentina, too, is really different from the other Spanish speakers. And I have an accent of trying to speak those accents while starting from American English. And my American English that I know has an accent from speaking an English-based Pidgin or Creole in the home as a kid. So, yeah. So basically, these people who arrived to the USA, these newer arrivals and their descendants, eventually they'll be considered Black Americans, or what people call African Americans, even though white Americans aren't called European Americans, and it's just an othering technique for psychological warfare and psyops. But, divisive political stuff out of the way, basically that's where the terms like FBA, Foundational Black American, and the term Soulaan come in at. These are terms that distinguish the different groups of people of African heritage that live in the USA. And so the original Black American culture and the original Black Americans whose ancestors were brought here as enslaved peoples or indentured servants, they are the FBA, Foundational Black Americans, or Soulaan. Now, they have group chats on the internet, they have Facebook pages, they have subreddits. People who use this term, it's a very serious part of their identity which they have with much pride, and they're well organized. They're getting more and more well organized over time. But I've noticed something very concerning. A couple months ago, I was on Reddit, and I went on the Soulaan subreddit, r/Soulaan. Yeah. And guess what happened when I went on there? The moderator saw one of my posts, raising awareness for issues that people in the community were facing, and they saw my profile photo, which was a photo of me and a good friend of mine, another one of the ethnic Qarsherskiyan youth leaders, the guy who's on the right side of the thumbnail in this video, good friend of mine I've known for many years. And they saw the photo of me and that lad, and they knew that I was the one with the ginger beard because the anecdotal evidence is in my post history and all. They figured out that I looked like this, and they decided that I didn't belong in the community. I never even claimed to just be black. I just claimed to be mixed race because I am mixed race. I am literally part black. My grandpa, he's from the Qarsherskiyan community, my biological grandpa. And he lived as a black man. Because of how he looks, to everyone who sees him, he's just a black man. He's been called the N-word, and he's had hateful things happen to him. When he was born, his birth certificate said Negro. And he's proud of this. This is his heritage. It wasn't easy for him. He grew up black and poor. But he became someone who's successful. And now he's older. He's old enough to be my grandpa, obviously, so he's older, right? And he's at peace in his life. He's got everything well for him. He's doing quite well, and he's succeeded. He has his own business. He works for himself. He doesn't answer to nobody else. He went from growing up poor and black in a town where more than 90% of the population is white. So while there's lots of really cool white people, obviously it's inevitable a few of them might not have been nice to him, right? There might have been a few bad apples. I'm not saying all white people is bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, there's some racist people out there. And back then, you know, in the 70s or 80s, it was way worse. And he went from living in this life where when he had shoes, they were all hand-me-downs, and he'd wear them until they wore down. Then he'd put cardboard in the soles when there were holes in the bottom so he could keep wearing them. He did not have the easiest life. He did not have it like I had it growing up. And he is someone today. He is beloved by everybody. People of all different colors and backgrounds respect him. He's a serious businessman. He works for himself, and he answers to nobody except God Almighty. He's a great man. And his life experience is being successful in a system that was against him because he was black. And his oldest daughter, his first child, was my birth mom, my biological mother. And she was the lightest of all of his children. She's really pale, just like the moon. But just like me, she's got this type-free, dark, curly hair and slanted eyes from probably native ancestry, and the high cheekbones, which is probably from Yoruba ancestry, because the native ancestry is more distant. And she's got the nose and stuff, kind of. Everyone can tell, they know who her father is. So even though she's pretty pale, she faced a lot of racism. It was a small town. Everyone knew who she was. When there's some things that I can't really say here, because it's personal family history that I ain't finna talk about. But trust me, she had times when she was in great danger from evil forces in the world. The forces of white supremacism conspired to end her life. I don't know if she knows about it, and that's as much as I'll say. She'll probably never see this video. But the forces of white supremacism conspired to end her life. And by some miracle, she survived, so that I was born. Then I grew up in London, Ohio, facing, my own challenges. There were a lot of nice people to me. When I was a little kid in kindergarten, all the white girls kept asking me, "Can I touch your hair?" They wanted to play with my hair and practice braiding it and stuff. They never seen hair like this. The barbers told me, "You have the thickest hair I ever seen." Right? Because it's like the Afro-ginger heritage. I've been told red hair is the thickest hair of any hair color, and that black people have the thickest hair type of all the different races, as people call them, I guess, that exist in humanity, right? In the single human race that we know exists. And so imagine someone with a combination of this Afro-ginger heritage. The sun is going down and it's not bringing out the auburn or red highlights I got. I'm looking really dumb right now trying to explain myself. Trust me, they say I got some really thick hair. But I grew up and I had lots of people interested in my hair and stuff, or saying like, he's got good hair. They were jealous of that. And I got bullied for this because people was racist to me because they knew who my family was. They knew I was part black. There were people who called me niglet in class. What does that even mean? It sounds like I just kind of figured sometime a long time ago that they were saying that I was like a little kid and I was part black, so they called me that. Like, I faced racism because of who I am, my heritage. I'm not claiming I have the same exact experience as a dark-skinned person from the Black American community. But people would be crazy if they think that I grew up as a white person. I didn't culturally. I didn't in terms of how I was treated, the opportunities I had. That's not true. And I never saw myself as white. When I was a little kid, I saw myself as a kid. My grandma took me to Walmart, I think it was, or some store in London, Ohio, when I was a really little kid. And I was there, and I saw some black people. London, Ohio is like 90% or more white. And it was even more, a larger percentage of the population was white back then. So this was like the first time since I gained conscious as a little kid, and my little brain started thinking that I noticed these people are black. So I was really curious, and I was looking at these people and I was interested. My grandma saw me looking at these people and she was like, oh no, why are you looking at these people? These are just black people. I was like, black people? And she's like, yeah, they're just people and they're just black. You know you're part black, right? Your grandpa lived as black person. And I was like, really? Wow, okay, yeah. And then that was it. That was all for me. After that, I always knew I was mixed race. Before that, I didn't think I was a white person. I didn't think white people existed. I just thought there's human beings and that's it. I didn't think about it. But after that moment, that's when I realized that these things were things that existed, that people talked about. And people told me since I was a little kid, that's how I grew up. So I grew up in a rural part of the USA, living the mixed race experience. And there were some people who hated me from both communities that were the dominant ethnic or communities, the white American and the black American. Both of these communities, at one point or another, I faced hate from. The white supremacists were the most hateful, but the few racist people that existed to me within black community were the most vocal about how they felt. They felt like they could get away with saying stuff to me, because what am I going to do about it? They would always pick on me. They would say, they would try to say, like, stop trying to act black. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not acting like anything. I didn't color myself or anything. What do you mean act black? They're like, why are you talking like that? I'm like, talking like what? They say, you're trying to act black. They said, what did you do to your hair? You're wearing a wig. I said, I'm not wearing a wig. This is my hair. What are you talking about? They said, did you get a perm? I was like, what's a perm? And I had to Google that. It's something white people put in their hair to get curly hair. I said, no, I was just born with curly hair. I have a perm? No. I was born this way. This is how God created me. And they always picked on me. They said, stop lying. You don't look black. I was like, cause I'm mixed, I look mixed. That's what I look like. You put me in the blender, as a little kid, you blend the features and create something new. But, so I did not grow up thinking I was a white person. I did not grow up with the experience that white people have in this country. I don't care what anybody says to me. I know my life and how I lived and how I grew up and what happened to me. I know my family and what my family looks like. And I know my community and who's my people, who claims me. I don't care what people say to me about, you don't look right. You don't look like you belong. You don't look like you fit in. Because the white folks, they are never going to claim me. To them, I am impure, whatever that means. Many of them tell me they wish I would hang myself, or that they wish they could hang me. And the black folks don't want me, because I'm too white for them, I guess, somehow. It doesn't matter if I grew up with this, with my family and with this experience. They don't care about any of it. They just care about how I look too. So, luckily, alhamdulillah, I'm lucky enough to belong to the Qarsherskiyan community. And all of us have mixed heritage. Some of us look more black, some of us look more white. A few of us identify as one of those two things. But we all know who we are, and we all know we're related, that we're one mixed community that existed for centuries. And so, this is our story. I think that with the exception of those people I told you earlier about who just have white and native heritage, just a couple people, mostly in Canada. With the exception of those few people, as a rare exception to the rule, I would say the vast majority of ethnic Qarsherskiyan people should count as FBA or Soulaan people. And here's why. Because I'm not talking about a significant minority where a Qarsherskiyan person marries a white person or a black person. In our community, there's no such thing as racial purity. We're a mixed race community. If a Qarsherskiyan person has the kid, their biological kid is Qarsherskiyan too. It doesn't matter if it's one Qarsherskiyan partner, the other parent is black, white, Asian, Native American, or anything else, Aboriginal Australian, the kid is still part of our community. And we accept them, and we love them, and we consider them our people. We have each other's backs, and we know who we are. We know our family ties, and we can ask, who's your people? So, I'm lucky to have this life. Alhamdulillah for everything. And where was I going with this? Well, besides the rare occasion of not a rare occasion, but like a significant, not even significant, besides a minority, but not a small one of ethnic Qarsherskiyan folks, who they marry out of the community into a white family, like a Qarsherskiyan man marries a white woman and has kids with her. They could be pretty different experience. They're still allowed to hang with the community. We still know who they are, and we welcome them. They're family, right? But their experience is different, you know. But besides families that don't have any known black lineage, all the Qarsherskiyan people are descendant. Not just descendant, but we are the foundational black American, or Soulaan. There's a term that they call us. There's a term for these people in our community. They call us light-skinned black, red bones, or yellow bones. These are terms that we've been called. Not to be confused with the red bone nation. We know a lot about them when studying different triracial groups, but the origin of their community name came from the term red bone, which was just used by the black American community to describe mixed race people of black heritage who have like a red undertones in their skin tone. And yellow bone meant they were yellow. They had yellow undertones in their skin tone, or golden undertones. And nowadays, there's some people I've seen in the Qarsherskiyan community referring to hair color. Because some of the kids in our community got blonde or red highlights, or literally just straight up blonde or red afros. And they call the ones with blonde hairs yellow bones, and the ones with red hair red bone. They call me a red bone and a yellow bone, because I have the red highlights, and the family lineage I came from, most people had yellow undertones in their skins. So, this is the thing, yeah? The ethnic Qarsherskiyan community, I would say, it is mostly comprised of people who count as Soulaan, or foundational black American. Because sure, the community is a mixed race community, but this isn't the same as a biracial person who has a black parent and a white parent. Both, if two Qarsherskiyan people marry each other and have their kid is Qarsherskiyan, and both parents likely have black ancestry, unless they're from one of those exceptions I mentioned earlier, right? So it's not a situation of blood and culture watering down. It's these people who have been mixed for generations, going back hundreds of years. And DNA and phenotype combination layering itself over and over again as these mixed race families continuously marry other mixed race families. And it's more of a modern phenomenon that many of them have started marrying into white families. Like in London, Ohio, a lot of the Qarsherskiyan folks are marrying into white families. And you're starting to see some people in the newer generation just look exactly the same as white person. But they know who they are and are still respected as part of the community. They could have blonde, straight hair and blues and a pointed nose, but they still know who they are. And the thing about the it's a modern phenomenon that we're seeing this. And the reason is mainly to prevent inbreeding. A big part of it is the media propaganda warfare on blackness and people trying to promote anti-blackness and force European beauty standards down the throats of everyone living in the USA, not just the white American community, but everyone. And just a whole history of a people who've been through colonization. You know, there's just a lot of people in the black community who, for some reason, people think if they marry a white partner, it's a status symbol or it's success, or that's just who they're attracted to because that's the beauty standards which was promoted to them by the TV and the news and media and pushed in their face growing up. And some of these people have even been made to hate themselves for how they look, which is just sad. But seeing this wide-scale phenomenon of Qarsherskiyan people marrying into the white community is a modern phenomenon. To quote one of my relatives I was just talking to the other day, he said, back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, when I was growing up, people did not mix. All the Qarsherskiyan families in London, Ohio, they was all called black, and a few of them was called Native Americans. They married within the community. They didn't go to Columbus to go marry the dark-skinned black people. They were marrying the people of color in London, Ohio. It was an endogamous community. And same with the white folks. They only married white folks. Now, my grandma, she has a blessed heart and a kind soul. She's a wonderful woman. My biological grandma, when she married my grandpa, the one I told you who grew up as a black person, people were so rude to her. I'm going to quote something, and it's not reflective of my opinion. It's not reflective of my spirit or feelings towards others. It's not me. I'm just quoting something. I know this is a YouTube live stream and it's a sensitive term, but I'm using this in the context of quoting what people said to my ancestors, to my grandparents, because I want this to be remembered. And when people write a book about me, when I become more famous one day, and my family heritage, this is something I want historians and the future generations to remember. It's a sad experience. It might make some uncomfortable to hear this, but it's something that needs to be remembered, because when you don't remember history, you'll repeat the same mistakes again. Now, when my grandma, her DNA test came, and she's 99% European and 1% Oceanian, according to her DNA test. Now, we know these DNA tests aren't 100% accurate, but this 1% is more than trace amounts. It's more than noise. This is, it was either Ancestry DNA or 23andMe. I think it was Ancestry DNA. And every update, it stays. And when I took DNA tests, I got trace amounts of Oceanian ancestry. And I ran my GEDmatch model for all the different models on GEDmatch, and it keeps popping up. There's a lineage in my DNA that likely comes from my grandma that is being labeled as Oceanian. And it's probably Oceanian or something else that is genetically close to the population of Oceania, where if you only get a fragment of the DNA that's like 1%, it's close enough you could misinterpret it for Oceanian. It could be something else. I don't know where it comes from or how it gets there. That's really confusing to me. But as a mix of white, black, and Native American, as well as some North African, which I inherited from him when I did genealogy. Many different models, and helped with the ethnic Qarsherskiyan DNA project, working with other folks and seeing their results. So I am a mix of predominantly European and African ancestry, but not just sub-Saharan African. I'm also around 1% North African, which is the Middle East, North Africa region, right? So like Morocco, Egypt, Algeria, these are Muslim countries in Northern Africa along the Mediterranean coast. And some of the islands in the Mediterranean, like Malta, Sicily, this region is the North African genetic region for Ancestry DNA and 23andMe and GEDmatch. And I also have small amount of DNA from other things besides white, black, and North African. There is models are all showing it. But where was I going with this? I get sidetracked too easily. That's one of the downsides of my double-edged sword I mentioned earlier when talking to my buddy Jaden, who hopped in those comments on the live chat. So so when my grandma was with my grandpa, they didn't have this concept of mixed race people. My grandpa just got labeled as black, and my grandma was labeled as a white person. And there was a social order of segregation which wasn't allowed to be broken. Back then, when they got together, they were one of, if not the first, public and open interracial couple in London, Ohio. In the city of London, Ohio, public interracial couple in London, Ohio. So they were the ones who broke a milestone first. So they got the brunt of the blow with the negative reaction from the society, which did not condone these relationships back then. So what I told you earlier about what I was going to quote from someone else, and the disclaimer I dropped, so none of y'all try to claim it reflects my views or opinions on anyone, making allegations about me that aren't true, as people always do. When my grandma was riding on the school bus, people would chant her name, and they would call her the spirit of the nigger lovers. I excuse my language, and I'm sorry to tell you this, but that's what they would say to her, guys. Why? Just because she was in a relationship with my grandpa, and she hung out with a lot of the other people of mixed race heritage in the town of London, Ohio. All these women who are called black women. In reality, they're all mixed, and many people see them from the black American community, and they either say, oh, you guys are light skin or yellow bones, or they tell these people, you're not black, you're just mixed. But in London, Ohio, there are not many dark people except new arrivals that these families did not live there 10 to 20 years ago. So they were considered black because they were some of the darkest people the white folks in London, Ohio ever seen. All these mixed race families were seen as nothing other than just black. And there was this horrible concept of racial purity where if someone married into one of these light-skinned black families, somehow people think, even today there's people who think that it, quote, destroys their bloodlines. Like literally there's a white girl who married a Qarsherskiyan man. And on Facebook there's all these white people from London I won't name saying she just destroyed her bloodline and thousands of years of DNA. It's like, what are they talking about, bro? And they're like saying she destroyed her bloodline. And they were mad because they said she's going to have mixed race babies. And all those babies came out with race and an endogamous community. These families like mine have been there. So, I mean, we have the genes. Really, I don't know how to explain. There's some things that I'm going to stay on my boundaries to not say some things because people will misinterpret what I'm saying or they'll not understand. They'll take the wrong message out of it and they'll get mad about me talking about my own people, my family and heritage and where I come from. It'll upset people because of how I look. I always ain't black enough. Awareness for some overlooked problems. Because of the way I look, someone banned me. The moderator did. And I appealed the ban and I sent them a moderator's message to the moderation team of that subreddit. And they kept telling me, you ain't Soulaan, you is biracial. You look biracial. And I kept telling them that I'm from a multi-generationally mixed race community. They literally, right before I posted that, just had a poll that concluded multi-generationally mixed. But because of the way I look, when they saw me, they said I wasn't enough. And I am nor used to that. I'm not really that mad. I'm used to this. I am never black or white enough to satisfy the black and white communities. I am from the Qarsherskiyan community. We're our own people. We have our unique experience between. Some tried to pass as white to avoid racism and stuff. And some are in between like me, and various different shades of somewhere in between. And we get it mistaken for Hispanic or Arab all the time. especially after I converted to Islam. People think I'm a Jew. I say, why do you think I'm a Jew? They say, because you have curly hair and you don't eat pork and you got a big nose. Mom, my birth mom, who I mentioned earlier, the lightest kid of my grandpa and his first child, his oldest daughter, she converted, she's in the process of converting to Orthodox Judaism and studying Torah, study with Rabbi. And she wants to be a Jew. She's becoming a Jew. So that's very interesting. And the Jews tell me that because my birth mother is Jewish, that makes me a Jew. But my religious belief is Islam, and my ethnic background is from the Qarsherskiyan community. The North African ancestry I have could be one thing, or it could be multiple things. But the list of options include Maghrebi Arab, Amazigh, Sephardi Jewish, and some other things too. Some people think it comes from our Soulaani ancestors. Soulaani, Hausa, Mandinka, many of these groups of people we descended from West Africa have some North African admixture due to the trans-Saharan trade routes. So as Islam spread into West Africa centuries or 1,000 years ago, many of the Arabs and North African indigenous peoples like Amazigh and the mixed descendants of Arab and Amazigh people known as Maghrebi Arab, the majority in those North African countries today, which are currently colonized and trying to sort their identity out. These three kinds of people, the Arab, the Amazigh, and the mixed descendants of both communities, come down into West Africa as people were converting to Islam and trading goods and stuff, and the Muslims were teaching Islam to people, and people were converting. So many of them married into these black families of West Africa and had mixed kids who were part Sub-Saharan and part North African. These kids grew up to continue marrying into the local population, marrying each other, so that these groups have significant North African admixture. I think like 10 to 30%, right? That's what I read about on the ethnic Qarsherskiyan website, that our North African heritage, it could come from Soulaani ancestors, because Soulaani is one of the most common, along with Yoruba. Soulaani is one of the most common sources of our black ancestry that we have in our community. According to the chromosome paintings and DNA studies and genealogy and all that research people have been doing on our folks. We have information online, but the biggest problem is it's mostly self-published sources from our community, which for a long time we wanted and thought was a good thing, because we can control our own narrative and make sure that the racists don't put misinformation about us, people falsely accusing us of inbred, and these white supremacists actually have inbred lineages. That is way more than any inbred lineages known in our community, in London, Ohio at least, right? So, I mean, inbreeding in the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community, historically speaking in the past, whenever it may have happened in some families, was never more common than anywhere else in the USA, especially anywhere else in the USA that had this kind of population density. But with all of this aside, this is one of the reasons why many Qarsherskiyan people in London, Ohio, are marrying into white families. These people are proud to be part black. Many of them identify as black and just black, even if they're mixed, and sometimes many people in the black community other them because of how a lot of them look. Even if someone is dark and is even darker than Obama, he'll probably have a mother or sister or a kid who is way paler than him, who can't by this reclassification. In the past, the black American community kept telling us that if we have any African ancestry and we claim to be mixed, ashamed of our black heritage, they told us we needed to identify as black. Even people like me, we were considered black. I would have been considered black just a couple decades ago. Even when I was a kid, people called me black. my relatives still say that I'm black to me because of my family and everything I just told you, right? But now there's a big shift because there's been something really unfortunate going on. A lot of biracial people in the black community with one white parent and white black parent, who are these mixed race, like biracial people, are being casted by Hollywood to play black people in roles. Not just once or twice, but nearly every single time. So, like, many of these people, they call them the M-word that rhymes with avocados, and probably might come from the word mule, according to many theories. It's a controversial term. Some mixed folks love it, some hate it. The term mulatto, I hate it. I'm not calling myself it. I don't care if other people want to be called it, but that's not for me, and most of my folks don't like that word. But it has a history with us, too, and it carries baggage that might not for other folks, I guess. But these people who the black American community calls mulattoes are basically hijacking the image of black Americans in the news and media and TV. If they need a black actor or actress to fill a role, they seem to especially hate the ones who have a white mom and black dad. Those ones they dislike even more. But it's been a point of tension and a point of animosity. And many black people feel like there needs to be more representation. More representation of black Americans, and especially, I guess what we're saying is dark-skinned black Americans. So now, it's completely the opposite. Before they was telling us, you have to be black. Now they'll look at me and they're telling me, you ain't black, don't even try to act black. I'm like, what does it mean to act black? I did not claim to be black, I claimed to be mixed race. That's just the truth. That's who I am. I did not do something to try to look more black than I look. Whatever you think looks more black and what that means. I'm not acting any way other than just how I am. They say, you're acting black. How am I acting black? Why are you talking like that? Like what? This is how I talk. This is my accent tag. This is how I speak. I moved around over the last couple years. I've traveled all across the Mesorevand, all over Eastern North America. I've been to the South. I've been to the Midwest. I've been up north. I've been down in Florida. I've been all around, guys. So when I've been staying in an area with friends and family from one region, they move to another and standing talking, and I might sound different than I do in another old video of me talking a few years later, which might sound different than I do now. I'm aware people have pointed out and showed me how my accent has naturally shifted and changed over the course of years because I'm moving to completely different parts of the USA where some might have a Midwestern or Southern accent. But in terms of the way I speak, I have always said duh. I have never said the THE word the way white people did. I can't easily pronounce it that way. If I try to, I have to slow down and I sound like I'm like stuttering or got something wrong with me. I can do it, but it's not easy. That's never been how I talk. I always say the with a V, or duh with a D, or very, 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 very rarely t with a T. I have never pronounced the THE like the. I'd never done that. I can do that. See, I just did. But it's not easy. It's completely inconvenient when I'm talking. Every time I say the word the, to try to stop and think and make sure it's pronounced like solid. Every time I say the word the, proper English accent or dialect, it's not a broken English. It's a different, barely intelligible in many circumstances, especially when the Moroccans talk fast. We love you Moroccans, but the whole rest of the Arab world, except some nearby Maghrebi countries, doesn't understand you 100% all the time. So you see, the accent and dialects are normal. And it's normal for accents and dialects to change when you move to another location where people talk different. You live there for years with these people. One of my friends, she was an ethnic Qarsherskiyan youth leader. She's around my age. I grew up with her. And she moved from London, Ohio, down into the hills of eastern Kentucky in Appalachia. The last time I seen her, she used to be like, "Hello, Brennan. I hope you are having a good day. That's your family? How are you all doing?" Now when I hear her, she's like, "Hello, Brennan. I hope you're having a good day. How's y'all doing? You and y'all family?" Why? She's not doing that on purpose. She doesn't even know she's doing it. I said her name, and then I told her, "Your accent changed." She's like, "Nuh-uh. This has always been the way I talked." And I was like, "Not when you was up in Ohio." So she didn't even know. I didn't know that my accent changed when I moved around the USA either. People pointed out to me and I didn't believe them. Then they showed me old videos, and then I realized. I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. Huh, that's really interesting." I didn't think nothing about it. I got all these people saying that I'm trying to act black and talk black. What does that mean? How am I trying to act black or talk black? Am I out here quoting Martin Luther King's speeches? You know, I have a dream about equality and freedom. I mean, yes, I do talk about how I care about equality and freedom, but you know what I mean? I'm not trying to put on any kind of facade or character or persona or act that is black in any way, whatever that means, other than just being me and who I am. My folks, not talking about the whole Qarsherskiyan community, but just the group of people in my circle. The branch of the Qarsherskiyan community I come from is not really good with picking up on things like sarcasm without the sarcasm voice. We have a sarcasm voice. Let me give you an example. I'm going to do this voice to pretend to be someone else, and then I'm going to do my own. "Hey, Brennan, can you please do the laundry for me?" Yeah, sure, I can do the laundry for you. I'm a bit busy now. Do I have to do it right now? No, you have like 700 days to do it. Oh, okay, well, that gives me plenty of time. I'll probably just do it tomorrow, the day after. No, you idiot, I was being sarcastic. Now, clearly there's been a misunderstanding because she didn't use the sarcasm voice. My folks used the sarcasm voice. Let me explain how it sounds like if they do it properly. "Hey, Brennan, can you please go walk the dog?" Do I have to walk the dog right now? No, not right now. You have to do it in 40 billion years. Now I know you're being sarcastic because you used the sarcastic voice. Let me give you an example. Someone asked me, "Do I want fish or something?" We're talking. Then they say, "No, Brennan, I just want you to jump off a bridge." If they say that to me, I'm going to be really sad. But if they say, "No, Brennan, I just want you to jump off a bridge," you know, like, "Oh, I just want you to jump off a bridge, don't I?" There's a sarcastic voice. I don't know how to explain it, but their tone and their voice lets you know they're being sarcastic. Like, "Oh no, I just thought the trees were going to come to life and eat you." You don't say, "Oh no, I thought the trees were going to come to life and eat you." You say, "Oh no, I thought the trees were going to come to life and eat you." That's a sarcastic. That's how we know. This ain't true for all the Qarsherskiyan community at all. It's just for the branch of the Qarsherskiyan community I grew up with that I'm familiar with. And I'm not talking about any subgroup. This ain't even true for most of those in any of the cities I stayed in, like London or Newport News. It's true for some families in our community, and others don't know what I'm talking about and don't have this sarcastic voice thing. And it's not dependent on where they live, it's just seemingly random. Just like flipping a coin. Anywhere you go with people in the Qarsherskiyan community, you'll never know if their family uses the sarcastic voice or not. It's a chance like flipping a coin, no matter where you are in the Mesoravand. But more likely in the US than in Canada, I think. No, maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. It's pretty much 50-50 everywhere. Give or take a few percentages off that 50. That doesn't really change it. Same idea, same message, same story. So, This is my rant, y'all. The ethnic Qarsherskiyan community, for the most part with some exceptions, is comprised mostly of people who are Soulaan, or foundational Black Americans. But many of these people are just what you would call a light-skinned Black American. I'm not making this up. This is a real term that we've used for decades. It's not new. It's not from me. The Qarsherskiyan community didn't even invent it. The Black community invented it for us. So, yeah, there you go. Think about like the Chesapeake phenotype when you look at Black American phenotypes. That's what not all, but the majority of the Tidewater Qarsherskiyans have. And it varies. The hair can be a bit more or less curly. The skin tone can be a bit more dark or lighter. The eyes can be more dark brown or more like an amber. But generally speaking, if you look up the Chesapeake phenotype, it gives you a good example what the Tidewater Qarsherskiyans on average look like. Not all of them, just what a lot of them look like on average, if you averaged them out. Some are more paler, some are darker. Some have wavy hair, no curls, just waves. Some have the coiliest hair you ever seen. Perfect, classic example of an afro. There's a lot of diversity in our community. It's something we're all proud of. We welcome all the descendants. We all belong in the community. We don't look at someone and tell them, "You don't look like any Qarsherskiyan I ever seen." No one says that. Not if they're from our community. Maybe an ignorant person who observed our community as an outsider say something like that. I'm almost to the top of the mountain. I've been hiking for too long, y'all. Whew. But you know what? Alhamdulillah, it's been a good day today. I gotta go break my fast. For me as a Shia Muslim, it's the second day of Ramadan. Look at that crescent moon up there, y'all. The camera makes it look big. It's a thin sliver. Looks like a fingernail clipping. It's a beautiful night tonight. You can even see the dark side of the moon. My camera's not that bad. Clouds moving in front of it now. So yeah, guys, I am from the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community, and I'm proud of my heritage. Nobody can take it away from us. Being pushed around, not always all of us fitting into one racial category, even within a single family. Well, one brother is considered Black and one's considered white. And they both share both of the same biological parents. We don't easily fit into all these social constructs of race people are making to try to categorize and box us up. So this has formed the crystallization of a Qarsherskiyan identity. And there's a few people like me who are willing to die on the hill of keeping it alive. Now it's safe, people say. In quotation marks, they say it's safe for our community to disappear. They say we don't need each other anymore. They want the lighter folks to identify as white, the darker folks to identify as Black. They want us to assimilate. They want us to assimilate into an America, a Black and white America. But it's too late. They've caused the crystallization of an identity. It's been going on for centuries, ever since the free people of color. So, here we are, today. And as much as people hate us and despise that they don't know what to call us, and if we're white or Black or what we are, we're still here. We're not going anywhere either. We ain't finna disappear or die off. Many people get excited. They say, look, the Qarsherskiyans are marrying out. Soon they're gonna disappear and there'll only be Black and white folks. That ain't true. We're still here. Because our community doesn't have a concept of racial purity. The one-drop rule formed a big part of the identity that caused our community to develop. But it was imposed onto us. We didn't invent it. Our community doesn't have a concept of racial purity. There's no such thing as a pure Qarsherskiyan, except in the language of poetry. In the language of poetry, there's a lot of pure Qarsherskiyans talking about it all the time. But that's the batin. When talking about the zahir, the apparent reality, there's no racial purity in the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community. Some of us look white, whatever that means. Some of us look black, whatever that means. Some of us look like a mix of both, or like neither. Some of us get mistaken for being Hispanic or Arab. People think I'm Jewish. But we are all one people, and we're all equal. I know that many Christians in the Qarsherskiyan community are tired of seeing us Qarsherskiyan Muslims having a huger share for the percentage of the community's population we make up, of the internet attention the community is getting. Many of us Muslim are way more likely to be going on social media representing the community. But that's just because many Qarsherskiyan Christians aren't doing this as much. For whatever reason. The most common theory I hear is that Muslims are more likely to get alienated in America, not really being accepted fully by the black or white communities, and finding refuge in the Qarsherskiyan community, where we welcome people of all faiths, except Satanists. They get a lot of hate by most Qarsherskiyans. There's a few of them who would even like those, though. Unfortunately, in my opinion, but that's the way it is. People of all different faiths, no matter what they believe, that doesn't change their ethnicity. But the reason I bring up faith, and I said some Qarsherskiyan Christians are going to be upset, I'm about to say this. The one thing I like about my belief as a Muslim is that in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are told the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Hadith and in the Sunnah and in the Khisalis, he said in his final speech, his final public speech before he left this dunya for the Akhirah, he said, no white is superior to a black. No black is superior to a white. No Arab is superior to a non-Arab. No non-Arab is superior to an Arab person. All the humanity of all the different races is all equal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, Al-Ali, Allah Azza wa Jal, does not accept or reject you based on skin color or race, as people claim it, as they call it, right? Allah judges us by our deeds and actions. That's the only thing that makes one superior or inferior. Jeffrey Epstein, look at him. I think, myself personally, I think that Jeffrey Epstein is inferior because he molested kids and abused women. He was a criminal. He was evil. He was wicked. So he's inferior because of his actions. And I think that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because of his actions, his character was superior. There's no such thing as racial superiority, but there is a such thing as moral superiority. There's no such thing as racial inferiority, but there is such thing as moral inferiority. This is my beliefs because I am a Shia Muslim. And some Qarsherskiyan Christians are going to say, stop talking about all that Muslim Islam stuff, kid. Most of us are Christians. Because the poll says around a third or more are Christians. Christianity is the largest religion in the Qarsherskiyan community. Islam is the second largest religion in our community. Almost a third are Muslims. 29.9% of ethnic Qarsherskiyan are Muslim. According to poll that asked 500 of the around 3,000 people who, as the time of this video, it's around 3,000 who self-identify as ethnic Qarsherskiyan. And I explained earlier today about how the Muslims are more likely to get pushed into taking pride in the identity and seeking belonging more than the Christians in our community, who might be more likely to just try to blend in with a white or black identity, depending on how they look and how they can pass as. Because of the issues the Muslims face, they're more likely to get pushed away from the white and black communities of America, because most black and most white Americans are Christians, and their culture is heavily influenced by this. And some people are going to be mad that I say this, but many of our ancestors from Africa weren't Christians, but Muslims like I am today. I am more closer to the culture that our West African ancestors had before slavery because I am a Muslim. Hausa, Soulaani, Mandinka. You know the word that old Ray Ray used for crayfish, crawfish, or crawdads? That word that he used comes from the Wolof language, as spoken in Senegal. Senegal, a Muslim majority country, black Muslims of West Africa. I have reached the top of the mountain. I'm at the peak, the summit. And as always, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.